As you know, we have a very special guest joining us this morning, here today to discuss his proclamation of 2024 as the Year of Public Schools is North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, who is a true public school supporter that we have previously honored as NCASA's Champion for Children. Thank you, Governor, for your unwavering support for public education and for making time to be with us today. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Well, good morning, everybody. You're at the beach, couldn't be better. Thank you, Catherine, for that introduction and for your leadership here at NCASA. And for everybody who loves our public schools, thank you for being here. I also want to thank Dr. Rhonda Schuler for your leadership as president here. I thoroughly enjoyed my trip to Lewisburg Elementary in Franklin County earlier this month. I've been all across the state visiting schools, sitting on floors, sitting in little desks, talking with teachers and teacher assistants and assistant principals and administrators and custodians and cafeteria workers and bus drivers. And it is amazing all that people do to make sure our kids get a good education. North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources is helping to sponsor this conference and recently launched an initiative called Learning Happens. They are here to help public schools with resources and history and science and arts and reading, in addition to their many field trip offerings that we want to try to be able to increase. And I urge you to check out the resources at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources to offer that kind of support that you have and that you need for your teachers and students. I'll tell you, I know personally, firsthand, the importance of public schools. I'm a product of public schools. My children attended public schools, even though it hurt that being a Northern Nash graduate, my oldest daughter graduated from Rocky Mount Senior High. That was tough. My mom was the greatest public school teacher in the history of North Carolina, by the way. I'm very grateful for all that she did and her instilling in me the love for public schools. And she would work nights, she would work weekends, and I would say, Mom, why are you working so hard? And she would say, every student is different, every class is different, every year is different. And that's really what our public schools are about. They are safe places where children can learn from educators who care about them. They can make friends with all different kinds of people they may not have ever met before. They get opportunities to lead successful lives. And I'm here to tell you, as I have been going all across North Carolina saying, our public schools are doing amazing work. We hit a record for graduation. 87% of our students graduated in 2023. Our public schools issued 325,000 workforce credentials last year. Many students are deciding to go straight into the workforce from high school, and we're helping them do that if they so choose. We have the highest number of national board certified teachers in the country, and we have one of the best pre-K programs in the nation here in North Carolina, and we need to make that a lot bigger. There are hundreds of other examples that I could give you and that you guys are seeing on the ground every day. I think the bottom line is that North Carolina public schools rock. They do. They're doing a great job. And one thing many of you know, and Mo Green, my friend, knows this from his long history with public schools, that success blooms not from seeds planted last week or even last year. It's a dedication to public schools for 150 years in our state. If you read your history, when North Carolina was one of the poorest states in the country, we found a way to fund our public schools because we knew they were so important. We knew then what we know today. Strong schools equal strong communities equal a strong state. But too often, our state legislature tells our schools to do more with less. And unfortunately, particularly over the last few years, we've seen a reduction in what they should be doing for our public schools. For example, beginning teacher pay, 46th in the country, 11th out of 12th in the Southeast, investing $5,000 less per student than the national average. That is not who we are as North Carolinians. That deserves a wake-up call for everybody. And as governor, I've answered that call by presenting budget after budget to them with meaningful raises for our educators that actually follow court orders. But every year, the legislature has come up short. You know this as well as I. We risk losing good teachers when they are underpaid and when they are underappreciated. Parents know it. You know what? We hear about parent involvement. Our public schools love parent involvement. They want more parent involvement. And many parents are in our schools, many of them digging in their pockets, helping our teachers do what they need to do, volunteering their time. And our parents who are spending countless hours and who are involved know that our schools are underfunded. But the legislature keeps saying no, even though we have the money to fund them. The choices have been more tax breaks for the wealthiest among us, more tax breaks for corporations that don't need it, and billions of dollars in the next few years for private school vouchers. They want to divert public school money for private school vouchers up to $4 billion. And because there is no income limit for these vouchers, even millionaires can go down and pick up a government check for their children who are already in private schools. Money that could go to our public schools. And that's wrong, particularly when most private schools aren't better than public schools. There's been a recent study in the state of Louisiana. Those who used vouchers switching from public schools to private schools had started about the midpoint, and they ended up more toward the bottom quarter after time in private schools under the vouchers. They also lost ground in reading and science and social studies. Same kind of thing happened in Indiana and Ohio, where students used vouchers, fared worse. Vouchers are causing budget problems in a number of states that had started them and getting pushback from Republicans in Arizona and in Texas. But in North Carolina, under this voucher scheme, we won't know how students are doing in private schools because they don't have to tell taxpayers anything about what they do with the money that they're going to get. In fact, private schools who take private school vouchers don't have to hire licensed teachers. They don't have to provide children with meals. They don't have to provide children with transportation. They don't have to provide services for disabled children. They don't have to tell taxpayers what they are teaching, how their children are performing, which students they will decide to accept or reject, or whether their students show up at all. That's stunning. A stunning lack of accountability and a stunning lack of respect for the taxpayers. You're just going to shuffle that money out. Let me be clear. I am not against private schools. They have their place, and that's fine. But I am against taxpayer money going to private schools at the expense of public schools. And that is what this voucher scheme does. We must put a moratorium on private school vouchers until we fully fund our public schools. Our public schools are central to who we are as North Carolinians. That's where we go to have concerts and pancake suppers and football games and quiz bowls, art, music, theater, athletics. Public schools are often the glue that hold our communities together. And more than 8 in 10 school-aged children in North Carolina still choose our public schools. And surveys show that parents are satisfied with the education their children are getting. I have declared 2024 as the year of public schools in North Carolina. It is a time for us to celebrate the great things that are happening in our public schools and to redouble our determination to make them even better. I've already been, and I'm going to continue to go to our schools, visiting our schools. I'm going to one this afternoon. I'm going to be in meetings with businesses, with civic clubs, with parents, with students themselves, with educators. We're going to talk about the great work that is going on in our public schools, and we're going to talk about how we can make them even better. And I'll tell you this, we can make them better, and we can put together a coalition of people across this state to do it. And it can be bipartisan, and it can cover rural areas, because so many people support our public schools. We put this coalition together to get Medicaid expansion in North Carolina. We can do the same thing to get support for our public schools. All right, I'm with a bunch of educators. You got homework, all right? I'd like for you to talk with legislators, have conversations with them, communicate with them, and bring up 4 things. 1, great things are happening in our public schools. 2, let's put a moratorium on private school vouchers until we fully fund our public schools. 3, let's pay teachers like the professionals that they are. And 4, let's expand access to early childhood education, pre-K, and quality child care. Your voice can and will make a difference here. Our schools are going to have to produce North Carolinians who are going to build our buildings and keep our lights on and keep our water clean. Somebody from North Carolina can find a cure for cancer. And it also will produce the next teachers who will change people's lives. What's at stake in these next elections is the fate of our public schools. It'll determine the future of what happens to our children's public education. We can stop the years of dismantling and defunding public schools. And I think it's important that we pay attention to what candidates are saying and make sure we support candidates who support our public schools. You've got people talking now about how public schools are indoctrination centers. You've got people who are running for office who talk about how we need to take children out of public schools. Public schools can work, will work. And I'll tell you this, we have a friend of mine who I've known for a long time who is running for superintendent of public schools, Mo Green. Mo understands public schools. He cares deeply about them. And when you look at his opponent, this is going to be a very clear choice. Someone who doesn't believe in public schools versus someone who does. Someone who uses violent rhetoric versus someone who believes that we ought to discuss our challenges and find ways together and forge agreements on things. Someone who believes that teachers ought to be able to have guns in classrooms versus someone who wants to keep our schools safe. The comparisons go on, but it will be critical. And I think you will see the same comparisons in the governor's race and in many legislative races across North Carolina. So I would leave you with that in not only doing this homework, talking with people who are already legislators, but talking with people who have decided to run for the legislature and people who are candidates. I'm deeply grateful for all that you do. I'm committed this last 9.5 months that I have to make sure that we are laying the groundwork for strong public schools into the future. I love this state. I ain't going anywhere. I'm telling you that right now. I'm deeply honored to have served as governor of this state and look forward during this next 9.5 months and beyond to make North Carolina's public schools the strongest ever, because our future goes to class in a public school every day, and we have to invest in that future. Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it.